Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makudir, and it's time for our hashtag Africa Focus feature. This is a part of the show where we look at some of the biggest stories on the African continent. And this time around, we'll be turning our attention to Somalia, where a political crisis is rapidly unfolding into a test of state power. The latest coming out of that front is the federal forces have taken control of the strategic city of Baidoa, a key administrative and humanitarian hub, triggering the sudden resignation of regional leader Abdirizak Aden Muhumed. The takeover follows weeks of escalating tensions between the federal government in Mogadishu and the southwest state. This after disputed elections and a breakdown in political relations. Residents have fled, aid operations have been disrupted, and what was once a bustling regional capital is now described as a ghost town. And at stake here is more than just the control of the city. It's the fragile balance of Somalia's federal system, already strained by constitutional disputes and looming national elections, which are going to be very, very critical. And we are now joined by governance and conflict researcher Abdirizak Aden Muhumed to help us unpack what this means for Somalia and the region. Assalamu alaikum, brother Abdirizak. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you giving us your time.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for having me, brother.
And I think we'll jump right into it. If you can just unpack for our listeners the latest coming out of Baidoa and that city being captured. What are the latest that you're hearing from that part of the world?
The latest is that the former president of Southwest State region went to Nairobi and left the city, and the federal forces moved in. The President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud and the Speaker of Parliament are all in Baidoa. It seems now the situation is calm, but the political crisis continued, even though there has not been a breakout of any sort of a fighting. There are also the presence of African Union peacekeeping missions, particularly the Ethiopian contingent. So it seems the situation is under control. But the political crisis, which is far beyond the current kind of confrontation, or which goes beyond the current confrontation in Southwest, is still at play.
How would you characterize this takeover? Would you say it is a restoration of federal authority or a political intervention in regional autonomy? Which one of the two would you characterize it as?
Yeah, I think it's good to give a bit of a background. As you might recall, the current president was elected on the 15th May 2022. From there on, his strategy was to be re-elected either through what he described as one person, one vote, or through an extension through the parliament, or extension in terms of extension of his existing mandate. So the president of Southwest State was part of that plan. And that plan was in a way falling apart because Puntland, which is a regional member state, pulled out. Then Jubaland, which is also another regional member state, pulled out. So Abdiaziz became the last president of a regional state, or federal president of federal member state, that Southwest, who pulled out the plan. So this confrontation is largely based on the president's ambition to extend his power and, in a way, organize an election. And the rest of the opposition political leaders or regional members, presidents of regional member states, are saying one person, one vote for Somalia is not viable at this stage. It's almost impossible. So let us reach a consensus on the modality of election, which has not yet happened. So it's not actually a kind of a federal takeover because no fighting took place. it was in a way a, a plan to instill a new president, and the current the former president of Southwest did not actually resign, but he was forced out of power. He literally organized an election and declared himself a president 5 days prior to the arrival of the federal forces.
That's very, very concerning, and I think it touches to my next point, and I think you briefly touched on it. The legitimacy crisis when it comes to Somalia's electoral system. We're heading to national elections soon. How would you unpack and analyze the electoral system and its purpose in the country? Do you think it will serve as the correct vessel to nominate regional leaders, national leaders in a peaceful way, as you mentioned, one person, one vote, as it is the norm all across the world?
That's not feasible at this moment. The current political crisis is not new. It has been with Somalia for the last 30 years or so. So what's currently happening is that no election modality has been agreed on. Previously, what used to happen in the run-up to election, the political elite used to, in a way, agree with the modality of the election, and it used to always be an indirect election. So the current president, in a way, senses that if he goes to, or if he chooses to hold an indirect election, the possibility of him coming back might not be there. So he is looking for an alternative. And in this sense, he has appointed an electoral commission. He put together an electoral commission. And that electoral commission do not enjoy legitimacy. It is seen as one man's show. It's seen as a form of a political form of political organization, basically of political part of the political party of the sitting president. So no electoral modality is agreed on in terms of direct election, in terms of holding an indirect election, and one person, one vote is highly impossible in Somalia because the federal government controls less than 20% of Somalia's territorial the country. So then you have a president whose mandate is coming to an end, and you have a regional member states who are against the president, saying we cannot hold one person, one election because it's highly impossible, and therefore the political crisis is getting worse by the day. And the president, in a way, is trying to, before his mandate expires on the 15th of May, is trying to, in a way, to come up some sort of a electoral mechanism, either to get himself re-elected or extend his mandate.
I want us to take a quick break, but when you come back, I want to look at the relationship between the federal government and just the state structures within Somalia, and how those are also seemingly collapsing, the trust between the two entities. And then we'll also continue on the constitutional, or what looks like a constitutional crisis, and federalism in itself. But we'll touch on those very, very important points after the short break.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic Sharia and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings, from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Across Sudan, starvation is tightening its grip. With rising food prices and widespread malnutrition, 8.7 million people are now facing emergency or famine-level hunger. As the conflict intensifies and aid routes narrow, families in Sudan are running out of options and time. The Al Imdad Foundation is delivering life-saving humanitarian aid to those most at risk. Stand with Sudan. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Elite Basmati, available throughout the Middle East, and now for the very first time exclusive to South Africa, brought to you by Murchison Spice, Peter Marisburg's most famous specialty store. Elite Basmati, available in aromatic white and golden cellar, is packaged in a world-class facility in India and is filled with wholesome goodness for your well-being. Elite Basmati rice by Murchison Spice. For trade inquiries, contact Mohammed on 033 387 2121. Murchison Spice.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views, and we're still unpacking the governance and the conflict dynamics in the Horn of Africa, particularly in Somalia. This is after the strategic city of Badoa was seized by the Somali military, and we're in conversation with Brother Abdirizak Aden Muhumed. He's a researcher in governance and conflict in the Horn of Africa. Brother Abdirizak, thank you so much for staying with us. Before we went on that short break, I wanted to chat briefly around what we are witnessing. Could it possibly be a collapse of trust between the federal government and also some of the state structures that are in place right now? How would you assess the relationship between those two bodies in Somalia at this current moment?
So you are right. There has never been a trust among the political leaders or between the federal government and federal member states. So trust was eroded long time ago. So when the current president was elected, he embarked on a campaign for re-election, and within that campaign, he politicized the constitution, which was not finalized, and immediately got into conflict with Puntland, the oldest federal member state. Then Jubaland also got into trouble with the federal government. Actually, the federal government issued an arrest warrant for the president of Jubaland, and the president of Jubaland issued equally an arrest warrant for the sitting president of the federal government. So that is how things has been going on. So what is triggering the current conflict is the absence of electoral modality. They have not been able to agree on which way to go, either direct election or indirect election. They have not been able to agree on the finalization of the constitution. So what you have basically is now a federal government whose power and reach is very limited, does not go beyond Mogadishu, cannot travel from Mogadishu to Baidawa by road, but still trying to force its way into the other federal member states, trying to force them to agree on the re-election of the president. So basically, for those who are rejecting the president's demand for a self-style kind of a re-election, are also getting into trouble with the federal government. So the whole political crisis is rotating around the absence of the electoral modality. The constitution has not been finalized, and it has been single-handedly amended by the president. He has changed some of the things that were previously politically agreed. For example, the constitution says the president Somalia's political system is presidential, parliamentary, and there is a prime minister, and the president has changed that, creating a position for vice presidents and number of other positions that has not been agreed on. But all that is minor compared to the current crisis because of the absence of electoral modality.
You mentioned something very, very important, and I think it's going to be imperative that we touch on it. These are the two regions, Jubaland and Puntland themselves. Are we seeing something similar unfold there, where there's a precedent that has been set, where they are also seemingly resisting federal authority, and what implications could that have in Somalia generally?
This is not a new occurrence. It's not actually a precedence. The previous even government, previous president tried to do the same in Jubaland. Interestingly, the current president was then a member of opposition group, and he stood with the federal member states to resist what then was described as the federal government's takeover, or federal government's intent to undo the federal structure. Now what's happening, the federal government the tension has always been there, either with Puntland or with Jubaland. But what's in a way unique with Southwest State is that Southwest State is closer to Mogadishu, and it is relatively much weaker compared to either Jubaland or Puntland. So the president was able to, in a way, maneuver and internally divide the federal, the Southwest political elites from Southwest. The Speaker of the Parliament is from Southwest, and he is with the president. So with that power, in terms of a divided political elite, he has been able to go to Baidawa and take over. But otherwise, it's not a precedence. He has tried to take troops to, he deployed actually the federal troops in Jubaland, but Jubaland being more organized, more powerful militarily in terms of organization, defeated the federal army, and the federal army was actually all brought back to Mogadishu. So, but it's not a precedence. It is what is unique is that Southwest's proximity to Mogadishu and it is weakness in terms of military and political organization.
Very, very important to note. I want to come back to Baidawa, because it's a very, very important city. It hosts peacekeepers. It hosts a number of humanitarian agencies. What could be the risks of militarizing such a space? And could this kind of instability almost create openings for armed groups like Al-Shabaab to try and exploit, probably?
See, Baidawa is already a surrounded city by Al-Shabaab. You cannot go 20 kilometers outside Baydhabo in any direction. And the federal forces were just parachuted into the city. It is not a force that has, for example, drove from Mogadishu to Baydhabo or traveled by road. It's just a contingent that were parachuted into the city. But the Ethiopian contingent, both members of AU mission and non-AU mission, have always been in Baydhabo. So within the city, the situation seems a bit calm. A president has been installed. The federal president is also there, went there. I'm not sure if he's still there. And the Speaker of Parliament also is still there. So they held a kind of a meeting with elders and requested to disarm different militias loyal to either the regional state or individual politicians. That has not happened. So the latest is that elders refused to disarm the different militia groups, and the president and requested the president to form a kind of a regional government, and the malicious groups now could be part of that regional government. But otherwise, in terms of security within the city, nothing significant has happened so far in terms of conflict breaking out. But the possibility is there, the tension is there, Al-Shabaab's there. So it is actually Al-Shabaab can capitalize on that. So it's a very fragile situation.
Lastly, before I let you go, I think it's probably going to happen in 2027, Somalia's highly contested national elections. How does this crisis almost shape the trajectory of those elections, and just how volatile they might become?
I think given the current situation, Somalia is as fragile as ever. I think it is even worse if you were to compare this election with the previous election. So at this time, there was a modality in place, there was an agreement in place, at least, even though the former president also forcefully tried to extend his mandate, but the forces that were against him, the coalition of opposition got stronger. Currently, the opposition is there, the Council of Opposition, a kind of a coalition is in place. A regional Puntland and Jubaland are also part of the opposition in terms of trying to formulate an agreed election. But it seems the current president is quite determined. He is reiterating that one person, one vote in terms of holding election is feasible. He's going to do that. So I think the whole situation might disintegrate, and Somalia might even, in a way, further dismembered in terms of some other regional states even declaring becoming their own kind of a country if the push continued. So that it's still it is actually on high risk platform if you see it from a political point of view.
Very, very concerning indeed. We're going to leave it here for now. Brother Abdirizak Aden Muhumed, research in governance and conflict in the Horn of Africa. Really appreciate your time and hope we chat again soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, brother.
And with that, we've come to the end of this morning's #Africa Focus feature. This is a feature that we have every day here on News and Views. And if you've missed any of our #Africa Focus features, you can head over to our Spotify channel. Just search @Salam Media, and you'll be able to recap and listen to some of the top stories on the African continent. And this time around, we're focusing on Somalia. And yeah, it is a really, really concerning turn of affairs in the Horn of Africa. And we'll continue following that story quite closely. Otherwise, going to take a quick break. News and Views continues after this.